There is nothing more dangerous other than a man to a woman than another woman who centers men in her life. Hi, my name is Shayna Conde. I am happily child-free. I talk a lot about decentering men, the philosophy, theories, experience of living a joyfully child-free life, and I'm a journalist on top of that. So if you are interested in any of those topics, also I do a lot of traveling, but share, subscribe, all that stuff. Now let's dive into why women who center men in their lives are actually a danger to other women. Imagine this. You and your homegirl decide that you want to go out. You want to have a night on the town. You want to turn up. You put on your cute stuff. You get your makeup done. You have a little pre-hangout wine, and then you go to the club, right? You both are having a pretty good time, but sometimes you're dancing with some guys, sometimes you're not, sometimes you're dancing with each other, whatever. It's cool, it's great, it's cute. At some point, you start getting weird vibes. Before this, a group of guys approaches you and your friend. Some of them are cute, and there's one that you're kind of into. You don't really know, but you're like, okay, maybe. You talk to him for a little bit and you get a weird vibe. And you're like, ooh, actually, I think my entire night has shifted. I don't feel safe here anymore. I think it's time to go. I think it's actually safer for both of us to go. So you go and you have a conversation with your friend. Mind you, she's found your own guy. It's cute. He's also in the friend group. You talk to him a little bit. He's also giving a little bit of a weird vibe. And you're just like, hey, sis, I think that we need to go. You pull her aside, you have a little oh my God, just go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom, you have that conversation. It's listen, sis, I think it's time to go. I don't really like this. It's not giving safe. I think that we've had a great time. It's late anyway. Let's go home. Somebody that centers men, not to say this is exactly what they would do, but they would center the men in this experience regarding safety. Oh my God, it's not that bad. I think they're actually really cute. I think they're really fine. I think this is really I think you're overcomplicating things. I think you're seeing things that aren't really there. Let's just go back and it'll be fine. I'll introduce you to another guy. It'll be great. Something else that could also happen in this kind of situation is where guys don't really, let's say that there's somebody that you like. This happens all the time on college campuses, right? Where, let's say that there's a guy that you like that's on campus, but then there's another girl that's supposed to be your friend, but she always has this way of creating backhanded compliments about you in front of him to try and make herself seem like the cool funny girl and make you lower in his eyes. Basically, if you can think of people that prioritize male validation over your friendship, over your safety, over your community, over whatever, male validation above all else, they are centering men. And that is actually a danger to you. Now, it's also a danger to them too, but we can't save everybody. Arguably, we can't really save anybody. It's unfortunate, but also some people in 2024 moving forward, it's a hard pill to swallow, but because we cannot save everybody, that does also imply that we have to let people make the bad choices that they want to make. In the words of Iyanla Vanzant, I will not fight you for your healing. Women that prioritize men, women that seek and crave and get that hit off of male validation, which listen, I get it. We live in a patriarchal society. Some people go ooh, when you get a compliment and get some male attention. I get it. That's fine. I think that's different than craving male validation. Any level of craving it is dangerous. I actually, I decided to do this video because pretty recently I had a conversation with one of my younger cousins. She is in her junior year of college right now. I love her. She's got such a good head on her shoulders. She's so bright. She's gorgeous. I'm obsessed with her. And she asked me, hey Shayna, do you have any advice about because she and I were having like cousin talk. We were talking about like boys. I was like, anybody on the radar? She's like, oh my God, Shayna. I was like, listen, our parents aren't here. Tell me everything. So we're kind of talking about that. And she was like, do you have any like relationship advice? And I was like, well, yeah, but it's not what you think it's going to be. She's like, oh, like I want to hear it anyway. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk about boys. I'm not going to talk about boys. Like, I'm happy that you're having fun. They should not be a priority of yours. I'm going to talk about the women friends, the young women friends that you have, because that is the most important category of relationships in your life right now. And it should be. And it should be. And I was like, my advice for you is to seek out women to be in community with who do not center men. And she did not, she was like, oh, what does that mean? And that's so interesting. And why would you say that? And I was like, these are all fair questions. These are things that I didn't really think about when I was your age. But I was also living in it. Like, I was trying my best to decenter men without having that vocabulary. And the friends that I had were also doing something similar. And yeah, it kind of made us like the odd ones out sometimes. Mind you, like we still dated, we still had crushes, we still did all of those things. But there is a difference in the way that we act when it comes to being around guys. We're not trying to placate to them, you know. There's a level of authenticity that is a through line in all of your relationships. You don't switch it up when a guy comes along. Also, so you know who that person is through and through. Integrity, that's the word that I was searching for. There's a level of integrity that is easier to maintain and easier to see when you're not changing up who you are because there's a guy. Also, women that do not center men will not leave you as a friend hanging, whether it's in like a life or death situation, like the first one that I mentioned. It might not sound like life or death right away, but things happen at clubs. Things happen around groups of men to women all the time. All the time. Yes, it's a life or death situation. Now, not to say that that's the only way, but also there's a lot of women where as soon as they get a boyfriend, they drop all their friends. They say, hey, listen, my boyfriend comes first. My boyfriend is the only, like we're focusing on, then they just leave all of their friends and then they just focus on this nuclear, just the two of them. It's two of us against the world, right? And that leaves all your friends high and dry. Now, when those relationships break up, which they always do, because you can't make one person your entire world and expect that to be a sustainable environment for love and communication and all of that, then whenever eventually that person's going to try and come back, try to be like, oh, let's make up for lost time. But until that person decenters the urge, the crave, that drug of male validation, the moment that a next guy comes along, it's just going to be a repeat of the same cycle. Now, and this is where I think things are going to get a little controversial. Bear with me. If you disagree or whatever, I'm free to hear about it in the comments, but just buckle in and hear me out. Centering men is inherently European. It's inherently European. It is patriarchal, supremacist. Like it's under that same umbrella. And I think that when it comes to the difference between how Black women experience this versus how white women have experienced this, also there's like a train somewhere that is so loud. I have no idea where it is. If you can hear it, I'm sorry. So as a Black woman, I'm going to start from the Black side, right? A lot of things, especially as I'm Caribbean American. Both of my parents are from the Caribbean, and I'm first gen to the United States. So when it comes to slavery, a lot of things it's a deep trauma. It's a deep trauma, right? So because so many families were torn apart or not even legally able to be established together, what I'm putting the pieces together of is that there was probably this deep sense of, okay, my husband, the love of my life, the father of my children, can be torn apart from me, could be murdered, could be sold at any moment, at any day for no reason. I need to be so autonomous. I need to be able to do what I need to do. And yes, I can love, but I can't need him too much. I can't want him too much. And I think that over time, with like the way that laws were created in the United States and then the mass incarceration of Black men and all these things, Black women have had to be on their own to secure the family, secure the children, secure the bag. There's so much historically that it makes sense that a form of that trauma is the I'm a strong, independent Black woman who don't need no man. And sure, all of those things can be true. You can be strong, you can be independent, you can be a Black woman, and you cannot need a man. But there is an underlying conversation in there of hyper independence that I think causes more hurt in the spirit than good. Because it is a forceful decentering of men based in trauma, based in a deep-rooted historical ancestral sense of loss, sense of we could lose it all at any point. I could lose everything at any point, so I will emotionally cut myself off, which like it is what it is. Now, I will say something that I find very inspiring that we do as Black women within this is that historically, because we have had to deal with this ongoing trauma, is that we have been able to find this sense of inner strength. And we've also been able to build community with other Black women very, very deeply. And I think that the way that we do it is very ancestrally based, no matter how deeply the knife has been trying to cut us apart from the cord that is Africa. The way the communities were based, and probably still, I haven't been to Africa yet. I'm going to, I don't know when, but I'm going to. The community raised the children. The phrase, it takes a village, comes from somewhere. So I think that Black women have found a way to create that village amongst themselves to raise the children, where men were not the center, but men were not a part necessarily of the community more because of trauma than because they were within the community decentered. Does that make sense? So with that backdrop, I think that nowadays the idea of decentering men comes more naturally to women, to Black women, especially like millennial and Gen Z Black women, especially the ones that are doing the therapeutic work of unearthing and examining our ancestral, our personal, our interpersonal traumas. Because decentering men is not an issue. It's not a problem. I think that being able to do it from not a place of trauma, of pain, is the goal. Now let's flip it to the other side, the complete opposite side. Let's go to I think that when it comes to historically European white people, when it comes to men put themselves in the center of everything. I think that, mind you, while it's fictionalized, most people kind of know what Bridgerton is, right? And you think about the courting, the wooing, all of those things. And men were in the center of it all. Sure, there's like a charade that women are. And yeah, we have Queen Charlotte. Wonderful, cool, great. At the end of the day, it is women putting on their finest garb to attract a man, the men make the women's lives better in that space. And so because they have the resources, they have the property, and women are essentially like trying to find their highest bidder. European society back in the day, which then created American society, which also like back in the day, and all of that is still kind of, we're all experiencing it now, is very individualistic. And when certain individuals are not given rights because of their gender, that means you have to center yourself on which gender or which kind of person can help you sustain yourself. And so centering men was a means of survival for many white women, if not all white women. Now, we're talking about that ancestrally, right? Now, because we're talking about how ancestral trauma can show up nowadays as Black women, we keep forgetting that ancestral trauma can also show up for white women as well. And I think that within our society and within the laws that have been passed throughout the United States, the history of the United States government, we can see a pretty clear through line. There are a lot of white women that have a very hard time figuring out who they are as an individual unattached to a man. There's also a lot of white women that, because of this, are constantly craving male attention, to be in relationships chronically, to be married, to be proposed to, just constantly getting a deep confirmation of male validation consistently. And I think that that could also be ancestrally a trauma response, because back in the day, if you did not have a man to provide for you, you were just going to rot on the street. As opposed to Black women that have always had to work, who have always had to have like the idea of, oh yeah, you know, like back in before the women's rights movement, like women couldn't work. White women, Black women were always working. Native women were always working. Women of color were always working when it came to the United States. This is what I'm talking about more specifically. But I think that elements of this can be seen throughout the world. And I think that decentering men, because this is a very, in my opinion, very Eurocentric phenomenon, is going to be much harder for a lot of white women to do, because it is so intrinsic to white culture. Now, I am curious about what y'all have to say about this, because I shared a lot of thoughts, and I'm hoping that nobody's mad. But let's not forget, I'm a journalist. I'm literally paid to ask big questions. So, let me know your thoughts. Like, share, subscribe, all those things. Tippity type your thoughts away in the comment section. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye. And decenter men. Decenter them for your own mental health. Okay. Bye-bye.